Hey everyone, talking about my favorite tobacco fragrances that I've ever tried. I tried to make this kind of varied too, so that there is some stuff for people who have lower budgets as well, although most of these are niche. And I put samples or decants of all these on my fragrance site in like a best tobacco fragrances collection, but you can totally get them lots of other places too. For most of these, I'll link to mine in the site if you do want to check them out there. Most of these I would say are unisex leaning masculine, and I will mention the ones that are on the more affordable side. Yeah, not in any particular order, going to jump right in. First, Tabac Tabou by Parfum Empire. So this kind of is leathery tobacco. It has this sort of horse saddle leather vibe that I really like. It has grass and narcissus that give it this sort of authentic outdoorsy feel. Then there's Immortelle and honey, which are known for going really well with tobacco, adding kind of like a golden sweetness. And the tobacco style here is very like deep and authentic, almost sort of spiritual, but not dirty and musty in the way that some, deep authentic tobacco might come across, and just a really well done combination of the notes list. Next, Bel Antonio by Hilde Soliani. This is a great combination of like smooth and refined, but it's still like kind of dirty enough to be edgy. Basically all about pipe, tobacco, and coffee beans, and it's kind of cozy and comforting and also energetic and lively at the same time. Next, Treacle by Pineward. This is, I would say, definitely has some intense and challenging sides, but it's also really smooth at the same time, which is kind of interesting that it balances both of those. It has this raisin note that really does come through and is interesting, but it works really well with the tobacco and the other notes. The honey here isn't too syrupy, it's not too cloying, and I really appreciate that. Like for me, something like Naxos by Xerjoff is just too thick in that sense, but I like the way it's done here. The honey accents the other notes with this kind of nice sweetness, but it doesn't steal the show. Just, really fantastic tobacco scent. So invigorating, very addictive to smell. Next, this is one of the affordable ones on the list, or relatively speaking, you can definitely get it for under $100. 1821 Man-Made Sweet Tobacco Spirits Cologne. I would say this is one of the best price to quality ratio scents of any tobacco cologne. It smells rich, high quality, well blended in a very like kind of niche way, I would say, but has that designer style mass appeal, best of both worlds. Kind of comes across refined without being stuffy or too old school, and just, standout tobacco scent for a more affordable price than niche, at least. Next, Tobacco Royale by Precious Liquid. Very rich, deep, and niche smelling, but in a way that would likely still smell very attractive to kind of, everyday people who enjoy tobacco somewhat, at least. And to me, it's a lot more accessible and less kind of earthy than the typical tobacco-centered fragrance, kind of like a faint cigar on a cool winter night. And I definitely mean that in a good way. Not faint as in like, oh, you can barely smell it. Next, possibly my number one favorite, Tobacco by Mona de Orio. This is just such a nice, rich, and deep yet smooth tobacco scent that also has thyme, dry woods, and some really smooth, elegant vanilla. For some reason, it almost reminds me a little bit of one of my favorite fragrances, Hinoki and Hinoki by Sense of Wood. I guess that does have, I think, thyme and, dry woods and some other stuff. This is based on a humidor with like a real cigar in it, and it is done so well for that concept. It kind of smells almost like nostalgic and suave at the same time, and just so good, really captivating. I believe it might be harder to get a bottle now, but wow, I love it. Next, Tobacco Pod by For the Scent of It, smaller indie fragrance brand. Such a smooth take on tobacco. Plenty of depth and richness, but without going too far into that like dirty, earthy territory either. The vanilla is done really well here. It's not overly sugary. It's more like velvety. And it kind of almost just smells like it's part of the tobacco itself in a really nice way. To me, I like this so much more than something like Tobacco Vanilla as a more mass appealing option that's still incredibly high quality. Next, another one by Pineward Steading, if that's how you say it. This is like sitting in a wicker chair having a cup of maple coffee on the balcony of a high-end cigar shop facing the forest on a cold winter day. Just really nicely done. And it has, I think, some animalic notes, and it's obviously very tobacco heavy, so I thought this might be on the more harsh end, but it's just so artfully blended. It smells so smooth, but so approachable, so rich and indulgent at the same time. Really, really good. Next, one that probably almost everyone's heard of, and might not expect to find on a list with some of these niche, but Spicebomb Extreme by Viktor and Rolf. And I do believe this deserves a place because it's just such an easy wear and so versatile and such a good like starter tobacco scent for people who might think that they find tobacco gross as a note, which I did for a really long time. And this was kind of what slid me into it a little bit more of like, oh yeah, maybe I do kind of like it. So even though it might not be niche quality, stunning, this or that, I think as a more starter tobacco scent, this does belong on the list. And although it's Spicebomb and it has extreme in the title, it's really very accessible as far as tobacco goes. This is not the type of tobacco scent where, it's like someone smoking a pipe in your face or anything like that. The vanilla, tobacco, and spice combine into this almost cardamom-like scent, which is like kind of creamy and refined. I think there's some lavender here that adds a sort of like calm, cooling effect, kind of brings the whole thing together. And again, this is something that to me smells like what I hoped Tobacco Vanilla by Tom Ford would smell like. To me, that one was just disappointing. I know a lot of people love it, so I'm not trying to say it's bad overall, but it's not what I wanted out of a tobacco vanilla type scent. And I would say Spicebomb Extreme is kind of intriguing, slightly mysterious, but not sour or bitter at all, the way that some tobacco stuff can come across to people, and just really good cold weather scent. Next, Pipe by Tsuga. Really well done take on like a natural tobacco scent, rich, deep, sophisticated, dried fruit, plenty of tobacco, a hint of smooth vanilla, warm spice, and some really smooth animalic notes are among the many aspects included here. Just exceptionally well done, smells very high quality. And if you're a fan of natural tobacco scents, I highly recommend this one. Next, the Oud Affair by Vilhelm, Parfumerie. Probably one of my favorite honey tobacco scents that's like really centered around those two. So the oud here is not animalic, it's not medicinal, it's just a rich, deep woods. More of really a supporting role than the star. Like, I don't know why they named it that, and it's not just my nose. Pretty much, most other people I've talked to have said the same thing, that this really does not come across like an oud fragrance too much. Or at least it's like very, very smooth oud, not what you would typically consider it. The honey here is done really well, not too cloying or thick or syrupy. The vanilla adds a really nice smoothness to the tobacco. Doesn't get too like bitter or earthy in terms of the tobacco here, but it's also not too like full-on gourmand vanilla either. And really alluring, and I think a really nice combination of edgy and smooth at the same time. And last, Euphories by Stranger's Parfumerie by my favorite perfumer, Prin Lamros. One of the best sort of tobacco gourmand adjacent type of scents that I've smelled. Very smooth tobacco and chocolate, really palatable boozy notes, and I do not like boozy fragrances or notes usually, but I don't mind the way it's done here. The perfect amount of like silky, creamy sweetness, and then some spice and woods to balance it out. Different from the typical scent by perfumer Prin Lamros, but just as well done, I would say. And some people compare this to some scents by the fragrance house Slumber House, if you tried theirs, and I could see that. So yeah, I'm sure that over time I will find some other best of tobacco scents that I've considered that at least, so I'll add those to the link in the description. And I probably won't make a new video until there's enough that it really feels like it needs a new video, but yeah, you can check the link in the description for the most up-to-date ones. Not trying to pressure anyone to buy the samples from my site. By all means, get them wherever you want, but you can at least just check the list there to see more descriptions or what the full list is. And if you have different ones that you're upset I didn't include, let me know.